Was Charlotte Corday reincarnated as Fania Kaplan? Was the CHEKA Terror worse than the Jacobins Terror? Did the Poles really defeat the Red Army at the Gates of Warsaw? These and other questions will be answered right after this. I'm Professor Jerome Arkenberg, and I've been teaching a wide variety of history courses at colleges across this country for the past 30 years. In this video on the Russian Civil War, I'm going to tell you about the various participants and armies, both red and white, the Odyssey of the Czech Legion, the involvement of the Allies, the attempted assassination of Lenin, the start of the Red Terror, war, communism, and peasant resistance. Finally, the miracle on the Vistula. At the end, I'll have the wrap-up quote on this video. But first, make sure to click like, share, especially subscribe, and that little bell thingy, so I can continue to bring you more great videos just like this one. The White Armies were led by former Tsarist officers, many of whom preferred autocracy, but their soldiers ranged the full spectrum, from monarchists to Mensheviks, though many fought simply for food, pay, or to be with their old buddies from the Eastern Front. The main White Armies were led by the men shown here: Kolchak in the Urals, Koppel in Siberia, Denikin, Krasnov, and Wrangel in the south, Yudenich in Estonia, Miller in the north, Semyonov along the Volga, and Baron von Sternberg in Mongolia. There was also the Black Guards in Makhno's anarchist Black Army in the Ukraine, Mannerheim's White Army in Finland, and peasant Green Armies in western and central Russia. The Whites were hampered by a lack of coordination and motivation. Some sought the return of Tsarism, some liberal democracy, some wanted a socialist republic, and some simply wanted to be dictator. The Bolsheviks had the advantage of a central location: Moscow, Petrograd, and the Russian heartland, along with Russia's primitive rail system, which ran nearly every line through Moscow and Petrograd, making it difficult for the Whites to move troops and supplies about to help and reinforce each other. The war was also complicated by the presence of various German and Allied armies, the Czech Legion, the forces of various new states trying to reclaim their historical borders, for example, Poland, Lithuania, Latvia, Estonia, Finland, Ukraine, Georgia, Armenia, and Azerbaijan, while Tatars, Turkmen, Cossacks, and Mongolians in Siberia and Central Asia also sought independence. It was a real mess. In May of 1918, British, Australian, and American troops, worried about having a whole bunch of supplies that they had sent to the Russians fall into German hands, landed in far north Murmansk, then seized Archangel, and were immediately attacked by the Red Army. That same month, some 100,000 Czech deserters from the Austrian army, who sought to join the Allies to fight for Czech independence, formed themselves into the Czech Legion and began an epic journey to Vladivostok, where Allied ships could meet them and transport them to the Western Front. On their journey, they were continuously attacked by the Red Army, causing them to ally with the White Armies along the way, which seemingly confirmed their existence as forces of Western capitalist imperialists designed to destroy the new workers' state in Russia, at least according to Lenin's mind. To support them, American, Canadian, and Japanese troops seized Vladivostok and advanced deep into Siberia to meet them. Meanwhile, in August 1918, when the Czech Legion approached Ekaterinburg, local Bolsheviks, thinking to curry favor with Lenin, murdered the Tsar and his family, shown here. The very last pictures we have of them. At the same time, reminiscent of the French Revolution's Charlotte Corday, who had assassinated Marat, the left social revolutionary Fania Kaplan tried to assassinate Lenin. Unfortunately, she failed. In response, Lenin ordered the CHEKA to begin the Red Terror, and many tens of thousands of Russians were executed on flimsy or non-existent evidence. Trotsky, as Commissar for War, built the Red Army into a near-invincible force through iron discipline and forced conscription by having troublemakers and deserters shot, threatening to have the families of soldiers executed, and replacing inexperienced revolutionary commanders with trained Tsarist officers, but having them carefully watched by political commissars with the authority to immediately arrest and execute any officer who showed any kind of favoritism to the whites. After the end of the Civil War, virtually all of these Tsarist officers, those who were unable to get away, were all shot and killed. The Civil War led Lenin to chuck away Marxist ideas on worker freedoms and people's rights and tighten controls, so workers were now forbidden to strike. They were forced to join Bolshevik party cells and labor for the war effort for free. This came to be known as War Communism, which also forbade private trade in place of rationing for factory goods and food for the Bolsheviks and the Red Army. The economy quickly ground to a halt. Famine stalked the land and millions died. Though Lenin redistributed land to the peasantry as promised, one of the few promises he actually kept, when he ordered the peasants to turn over all of their food to the Red Army for free, most preferred to destroy their food stores than turn them over to the Bolsheviks, whom they now detested, causing the CHEKA to terrorize and execute millions of peasants. With the end of World War I in November of 1918, British troops advanced into the Caucasus, and along with the French, seized Odessa, Sevastopol, and other Black Sea ports, and then immediately began giving aid and support to the White Armies, as shown here. With the German collapse, Latvia, Lithuania, and Estonia declared their independence, then fought both Reds and Whites to maintain and control their ethnic boundaries. Poland, too, declared its independence and achieved it, then sought its historical boundaries, leading to war with Germany, Lithuania, Czechoslovakia, Belarus, and Ukraine. But when the Allies, battered by the slaughter of the First World War, unsustainable war debts, and the Spanish flu pandemic, rejected French Marshal Foch's plan for a crusade against Bolshevism and withdrew their troops from Russia, the armies of Yudenich, Denikin, Kolchak, and the rest collapsed by early 1920. So by the summer of 1920, the Red Army had reconquered Georgia, Armenia, Belarus, Azerbaijan, and Ukraine. Meanwhile, Red Armies invaded Latvia, Finland, Lithuania, Estonia, and Poland, as shown here. But after sweeping to the Gates of Warsaw, the Poles decisively defeated the Red Army in the summer of 1920 at the Battle of Warsaw, the miracle of Vistula, and rolled back the Red Tide. The wrap-up quote: "The stimulus to build a mighty Red Army for world revolutionary purposes was accentuated by the pressing need of mobilizing forces to beat off the counter-revolutionary armies gathering on the outskirts of Russia, particularly in the south and east. The call for volunteers was a complete failure from the start, except insofar as people joined the Red Army with the object of getting bigger rations until being sent to the front, and then deserting at the first opportunity. The branches of the Communist Party extended like tentacles to the smallest unit of the Red Army, and not a single soldier was exempt from the omnipresent communist eye. They were told the Red Armies would sweep right across Europe, but the rank and file were devoid of all interest in the war. Thus, the moment they met organized resistance from the Poles outside Warsaw, the Russians either fled, deserted, or mutinied." Paul Dukes, 1920. Let me know what you think of this quote in the comments section below. Also, what you liked about this video and what other historical topics or subjects you'd like to see in future videos. Be sure to click like, share, especially subscribe, as it will help me bring you more great videos, and click on that little bell thingy so you'll know when the next History Waits for No One video is posted. If you want to know more, there are recommended studies on this topic in the description below, along with other ways to connect with me. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the past.